So let's go ahead and get started. Congratulations to the both of you for this documentary, Bleeding Audio.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long journey.
Before I get started, I want to remark this documentary didn't it premiere at CineQuest last year before CineQuest was shut down?
Yeah, so something that I feel like is almost like a very specific 2020 joke is I tell people that we had our world premiere on March 7th, 2020, which, as we all know now, was the edge of the apocalypse. They announced that they were shutting down CineQuest the same day as our premiere. So what was a sold out screening ended up being still probably about 75% full. And yeah, they kept all their weekend screenings and then everything shut down after that Sunday. So it was wild.
You want to hear something? I was there.
What? Oh, wow. Really?
I was actually at CineQuest in San Jose. In fact, for some unknown reason, the name of the documentary sounded familiar because I remember talking to somebody on the carpet, and I went back, looked at the video, and it was you guys. There was like supposed to be a concert or something like that too.
Oh yeah, we had a little secret show afterwards.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, I think I totally remembered, and I remember the shutdown, and I think I was like going, okay, well that's all right. So I went to a different film festival, and then after that I caught Corona, and I was knocked out for a month.
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh my gosh!
You're like, I'm done.
Yeah, I was literally done. It wasn't from the San Jose. It wasn't from that film festival. It was from the Pasadena Film Festival, and all I know is it was just very early. It was not fun, was because where I lived at, I think I was like the first 10 people to catch it. Because of that, then your face was plastered all over the news.
Oh no!
Oh no!
And it was a different experience because all of a sudden you just gain a bunch of social followers waiting to see if you live or die, that kind of stuff. But enough of that. But let's talk about this documentary. Well, CineQuest aside, how does it feel that this documentary is now being showcased at Slamdance this year?
I mean, it's like a dream come true, CineQuest was definitely a festival that I was so excited to be a part of. But like, I'd be lying if I didn't say that like Slamdance was always kind of like the dream, I personally have been volunteering for the Sundance Film Festival for 12 years. And so I'd always kind of use it as an excuse to go and sneak in and see a few Slamdance films as well. And their independent spirit and their sort of punk rock filmmaker attitude just so perfectly situates with just the, my sensibilities and also the drive that it took to make this film is, Slamdance's theme this year is Greenlight Yourself. And I honestly can't imagine a better film to really fit into that theme, because at every turn we were more or less kind of told that we couldn't make an interesting, generally appealing movie about a band nobody's heard of. And I like to think that we forged forward and proved them wrong. So it just, I mean, the canon of filmmakers that have come out of Slamdance are some filmmakers that I've looked up to since I was, in film school and earlier, and it's just amazing to be a part of that family now. So very honored.
That is pretty awesome. Hey, Justin, was there a lot of convincing for you to participate in this documentary when you first heard of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think when Chelsea first brought up the idea of doing a film about us, I think we're all kind of surprised that anybody would want to make a film about our band, but also kind of like, it seems like a lot of work to make a film about us, and we don't think we're very interesting. So, you can do what you want to do, but that's yeah, I don't know. We were very surprised, and we really we couldn't see where it was going, I guess, you know, because we look back at our life and we just see, you know, all our mistakes and missteps, and couldn't really see a story that you could weave through it. So it did take a little convincing from Chelsea to convince us that she could make a story. And so we're just like, okay, you do what you want to do, and we'll do our best to support you. And so we pulled out all our boxes of, you know, photos and films and dumped them on her desk. And, you know, she put together the interviews and stuff. But I don't know. I feel like we're almost like, you know, we did what we could, but we really had little participation in actually making the story besides the interviews. It was, you know, Chelsea really wove the story together.
Well, that's a lot of kind words for you, Chelsea. But Chelsea, you could have done any documentary on any band. Why this band? And is it because you got a tattoo, possibly? Is that how it worked?
Well, in my defense, I got a tattoo while we were on tour filming the band with one of my camera guys. So it was one of those moments where, when we were in Australia, capturing part of this reunion that extended to this, you know, completely other country, we recognized that it was something very special. And the whole experience just meant a lot to us. So it was actually myself, my camera guy, Patrick Lawler, guitarist John Devoto, and we convinced Justin Sansouci to get a tattoo as well. So we each got little match tattoos. But no, I mean, what, you know, for me, telling this story, this has been a band that I've always admired and, you know, really loved their music. And, you know, as one of their fans, I also had that similar feeling of like, you know, they should have been so much more, or, you know, they just never kind of got credit where credit was due, it felt like. And but what was bigger than that, and what I found really interesting, just kind of being in a family circle of musicians and seeing this shift over the past, you know, 15, 20 years, is, you know, their timeline was matching parallels so well with how the industry has changed. And a lot of their career choices were based on an old model that were now being applied to a changing industry. And so it felt like a really great opportunity to tell a bigger story while also being able to give a platform and a pedestal to this band that I love, who I feel like should have received a little more appreciation. But, you know, and also, you know, these guys are my family, they're my friends. Like you know, I had access, and it just felt like it fit so seamlessly for me to be able to kind of lift them up and tell this story in a way that I feel like maybe nobody else, you know, would or could or would have the stubbornness to do so. So it just felt like the right fit. And I mean, and creatively too, I was in between projects. I had just finished festivals for my first narrative short, and I was kind of in that like post-project depression where you're just kind of trying to figure out what's my next thing gonna be, you know? Like, I didn't have anything lined up. And when this story came through, it just felt so obvious to be able to do it.
Hey, Justin, I'm sure you've seen this film multiple times already. Was it difficult to watch yourself going through reliving your life? And because we're talking about reliving your life since your teenage years.
Yeah, no, definitely. When I first saw it and Chelsea started kind of pulling up videos, even just going back through like old hard drives and going through boxes of photos and stuff, it was a very emotional journey personally. And then have that, all the pieces of that kind of start getting put together into a story. It was definitely very difficult to watch the first time when we got to see like a rough cut early on. And it was definitely one of those things where I was like, wow, like I think I need to take a step away from this. So, but then after seeing it a few times, you kind of work through that and process that. And I think actually looking back, it's been kind of a therapeutic experience that kind of help process a lot of it. And also too, it's been fun to like look back on certain situations, and then like you kind of always, you know, you can only see it from your side, but then you kind of hear, you know, other people's takes on situations, and it kind of helps you process things because you don't get kind of like stuck in your own head as much. So you realize, you know, you weren't the only one who, you know, you weren't marooned on an island, that you were, you know, with a group of people all enjoying the same ride.
Well, you were with a pretty good group of people, that's for sure. Chelsea, how did you want to craft the narrative after, I'm assuming, hundreds of hours of footage that these guys donated to you? I mean, what kind of story you want? How did you want to create that story for them?
Yeah, I basically, in trying to pitch this to them, I created a treatment. Like I basically wrote out the whole story ahead of time and explained to them that I was using their story to try and access this bigger tale of the changing music industry. And I feel like that gave them the buy-in in a little bit of a way, because they were like, oh, okay, like it's not just going to be us carrying the story, right? It's going to be a little bit more than that. But you know, when it came to going into production and selecting our interviews, a big part of that selection process was that Venn diagram of like, okay, who is connected to the matches, who's been like a part of their career and their milestones, and who's like a music industry expert. You know, who is someone who could give this story clout and give a perspective that's really valuable about how the industry has changed. And so we crossed those two sections together, and that's how we really selected our interviews. And it's interesting too, because we did interview a bunch of people in the, you know, don't really have anything to do with the matches, but like our music industry experts area. But most of those people ended on the cutting room floor, because what we came to find in constructing the narrative is that in talking about this changing industry, people really only accessed it and appreciated it in our test screenings when it was directly related to how it impacted the matches, or it had some direct implication to a milestone in this narrative. So, you know, we went in with a very clear idea of how we wanted to approach the story. And as we got into post-production with the assembly, the kind of ping-ponging story of the matches in the music industry, it felt, you know, it felt literally like that, like you were just being thrown between two topics. And so as we were cutting it back, we pretty much exclusively tied music industry milestones to matches milestones, and that helped make it a bigger story, but it also helped make it more accessible to an audience who would otherwise probably not be interested in how this industry has changed, at least not in the same nerdy fascination that I have. And also in this kind of like galvanized effort that I have to try and make people understand like how important it is that we need to value our artists. But really, you know, in kind of finalizing our final pass of the narrative, you know, I went in with character cards and I had character arcs for everybody. I had, you know, everything mapped out. But when we were doing our final pass, we literally held up the matches story with the hero's journey. You know, we went into, you know, page 1 of the screenwriting book, and you know, we wanted to make those beats land in a way that was familiar to an audience, and in a way that an audience could access to really connect with these characters and with this story. Because the matches story, while unique to them, it's not necessarily unique to any artist who's trying to follow a dream, you know, and we wanted to make that feel universally relatable no matter what.
That's true. Justin, I found everyone's story in the matches very unique and very different. In fact, the one thing that I was scratching my head was that everyone has a different personality. So I don't know how you guys even came together in the first place, or how the synergy actually worked. How did you guys came together as the locals, as team? Because you guys were all different. And how did you guys stick around for so long? Because you guys were all different.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, even though I would say we're all very different people, like we all kind of really got along really well. I think a big part of being, you know, having longevity as a band is being able to occupy small spaces for long periods of time without losing your mind. So kind of everyone kind of like had their own kind of personality that kind of balanced out with everybody else. You know, like yeah, I don't I don't know, like it's just, and I mean I knew Matt Whalen. I've known him since like 3rd grade. Like we went to grade school together, and then so I don't know, he's always just kind of been part of my life. And then I became friends with Shawn in high school. So right there, like me, Matt, and Shawn, for me it was always kind of like old friends, you know, first, and then you know, musicians band second. And then when we met John, like he definitely came in with a lot more energy, and I think very like yeah, like a lot of energy. So I think at first we weren't sure, like, you know, how to handle that, because he but yeah, it all ends up balancing out, and you know, part of it is learning to give each other space, and you know, making sure you're responsible for your kind of band chores, whether you're the driver or load in or load out. Like as long as you're being, everyone was, you know, responsible and professional, though we're all, you know, a little kooky.
Yeah, my favorite thing to tell people is that the matches, like why they work so well, is that on like, if you put them on like a line chart, like they all fall between a line chart from like Matt to Shawn, you know, where it's just like, you know, you've got Matt who's super grounded, you've got you know, Justin who's grounded but like has a good wild side, you've got like John who's just like this burst of energy and this like, you know, really great like creative, you know, quirkiness. And then you've got Shawn who's like, you know, a complete just like creative genius mastermind who just is like, you know, all over the place, you know. And it's just this kind of beautiful balance where they just sort of all kind of pendulum between those different you know, those different personality types. It's really fun to watch and see how beautifully balanced they are.
You know, and any within, if the band could last more than 3 years, that's already a success. So
yeah. I think too, like just us spending so much time together for so long, even before we got in a van and played as a band, we spent you know, a few years of just, you know, practicing all the time and playing in the garage all the time. Like I think we were able to kind of spend a lot of time together and get comfortable with each other before we, you know, jumped in a van and toured for 10 years. So I think we had a good foundation.
that's true, especially if you could stand each other's BO for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, you spend a couple of years you know, trying it out, make sure it works before you you know, commit to living in a van together.
I am so glad I missed that phase.
Hey Justin, one of the things of obviously in this type of documentary, it has to bring up, you know, the highs and lows. And one of the lows is that you suffered a burnout yourself that was portrayed in the documentary. Do you think that you wouldn't suffer that burnout if the business industry actually like paid you guys properly, and that you guys would have continued on with another album, or you think you would still go down that path?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was like a lot of factors at play in that. You know, it was, I think a big part was money, because I had none, and nobody in the band had any. So what that forces you to do is stay on the road and just continually tour, and tour lifestyle, even when you do it well, it can be pretty unhealthy, and I wouldn't say I was doing it very well at that time. So you know, I really wasn't taking care of myself, really stressed out, always driving somewhere and touring and, you know, playing shows constantly. So I feel like if we were making some money, and then that gave us the opportunity to actually take some breaks and take some time off the road and, you know, spend more time away from the band at that point in our career, I think it could have prolonged the life of the band. I think, yeah, I think at that point though, too, like, you know, when you have like 10 years of just constantly touring, like, yeah, you just need a break. And so I feel like there was more success early on, or at least, you know, getting more money and being able to be a little more financially independent. And we were able to like have more space away from touring. I think that would have been healthier for everybody. So on one hand, I feel like we did a really good job living together in small space, but I think also too, like, it probably would have been beneficial if we were able to get a little more time away from each other and off the road, which wasn't possible at that time. So I think at the time I left, I needed to step away, and I couldn't tour anymore. So I think any vacations that had happened previously would have been beneficial down the road, I guess.
Absolutely. And Chelsea, how much new footage did you actually have to step in with? Because obviously you can't just rely on all, you know, the entire movie with old footage. You had to put in interviews. Did you? And you mentioned you actually had to go on tour with them briefly.
Yeah, so I mean, the original intent with this film was to almost keep most of their history in the first act and then like have a lot of the reunion stuff, sorry, spoilers, but a lot of the reunion stuff happened kind of midway act 2. And so I thought we'd be using a lot more of the live footage that we shot, because we shot every single reunion show and in beautiful 4K. And so the fact that it's all kind of like the last 20 minutes of the film is just, oh my gosh, what a feeling to just be like, oh, there's so much stuff that is just not even seen. So, you know, some Matches fan out there wants to just take this live footage and cut together a really cool concert video, you are more than welcome. Yeah, it was amazing when we discovered the iMusicast archive, though. The fact that Brian Matheson over at Skyline Studios has this massive archive of all their old shows just made us understand that we would be able to create a textured visual story of the Match's history, because it was actually so well documented. And while some of their photos from the road, you know, were few and far between, there were no cell phones yet, you know, it was all like disposable cameras or digital, like those crappy little three megapixel digital cameras, you know, like it was kind of hard to construct visuals out of all of that. But yeah, I mean, we have so much footage, and it was just fun, you know. It felt like I could learn something that I was always really interested in by, you know, speaking to these music industry professionals. It was fun and challenging to, like, you know, talk to these guys very openly about the highs and lows of their career, and you know, design how I wanted the interviews to look and feel. And yeah, there's just mountains of footage. And, you know, my friend Patrick and my friend Phil, who both own Red cameras, like, were kind enough to loan those cameras to me for the film. And so, you know, those notoriously take really large files. So I've got like at least 16 gigabytes of just content, you know, for this whole movie. It's wild. But yeah, it was just fun, you know. It's just, the band is so friendly and welcoming, and their fans are the most beautiful, kind spirits in the world. And yeah, I just yeah, it was just fun. It was great. Very honored to have been given the opportunity.
Well, it's a beautiful film. Well, let me wrap it up with one more question for the both of you, because I've taken a lot of your time already. You know, obviously, this past year we're having our own ups and downs because of this pandemic. But I want to know is, how are you staying sane and creative during times like this? Who wants to start?
I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess for me, like, currently my day job is like a concept artist for a video game company. So I'm kind of forced day to day to be creative, put on that creative hat and keep working. Personally, just doing like a lot of drawing, a lot of sketching, trying to learn new digital tools. Like I recently got an iPad so I can, sit on my couch and sketch. So I kind of like that. Been watching a lot of movies, just trying to yeah, just kind of keep the brain going and keep fresh ideas flowing.
Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been like ups and downs, having a film that you've worked on for 6 years, have a world premiere, and then immediately get shut down because of a global pandemic is, not exactly the light at the end of the tunnel that I thought I was going to be getting with the project. So it took me a few months to bounce back, if I'm honest about it. It was like the fanfare that just sort of fizzled, but I think someone said to me, they were like, I'm done waiting for this to be over. I want to learn to live with this or live through this, and that gave me a lot of energy to try and do that as well. So, over the summer, I actually got accepted into like a Sundance collab directing course where I just was like, I just need something to keep me focused, like let me get these narrative juices flowing again. I did like a screenwriting workshop, I did a directing workshop, and it just really helped me like, reframe my state of mind and just like, refresh these skills that I haven't been able to flex because I've been like locked in a pandemic. So that felt really great. And I've been doing a lot of writing. I haven't been doing as much writing as I'm sure I could because of being in a pandemic, but the world's on fire and everything is very traumatic. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself, but I'm doing my best. And I'm hopeful that we'll be entering a state soon where we'll be able to go back into production. And one of these screenplays that I've been noodling with over the shutdown, I'm hoping to hoping that'll be my next thing. So it's I think everybody should just be kind to themselves in this time and to not forget that we're all experiencing a collective trauma, and that not to be too pressured on themselves to be creative. But I think when you can find the space that it's worth trying to make the time and space to be creative if you're feeling it. But I think just don't be too hard on yourself. That's the moral of the story, I think.
That is terrific. Well, hey, thank you to the both of you for speaking to me about Bleeding Audio, and just real fast, we don't have a secret virtual concert anytime soon, do we? Just like you guys are planning for CineQuest.
Oh, we had like a little live stream that happened over the weekend. And you can view this little live stream music showcase that we did on the Bleeding Audio YouTube channel. It featured a band called Knifes, which has the Match's old guitar tech, Ben Young, in it. And it also had Tom from the Plain White Tees play a few songs, and the Matches played, well, Shawn from the Matches played a few tunes as well. So you can check that out. And then we're hoping to plan some more events soon once it's safe.
That is great to hear. Well, anyways, hey, thank you both again. And thank you for meeting me once again, second time around virtually.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It was it was great chatting with you, and really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. It's awesome.
This
hopefully we'll see you around.
Yeah, we'll see each other again, obviously.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.